My name is Stefania Tagliabue and I am an environmental psychologist. I work for Strategy Innovation, a spin-off of Ca' Foscari University, and today we will speak about employer branding. I hope this presentation will be interesting for you.
The presentation is about employer branding and the process of attraction and retention of talent. So let's start by the definition. As you can see in this slide, there are some definitions of employer branding, but we can summarize this concept defining it by the commitment that a company has in order to demonstrate to the current and prospective employees that the company is a good and inspiring workplace to work in. The employer branding shows the identity and the values that the employer has. And also, it comprises the package of functional, economic, and psychological benefit provided by the employment. In other words, the employer branding is a business philosophy that differentiates the company from its competitor. If the purpose is to demonstrate to employees and to competitors that the company is a good reality to work in, we can see in this slide that prices and certification are increasing attention and prove that employer branding is an approach which could support companies effectively. If we start from the first example, we can see that is a prize called Great Place to Work. That is a certification that represents an opportunity for companies to be recognized as a quality workplace. So the company that gained this certification demonstrate, for example, to have high quality HR process, a good relationship between employees based on trust. People are proud of the company and the environment that they live every day, and we can say that is a good way to communicate to the society and to attract the best talent, having the proof of this certification. If we move on the second example, there is another ranking called RepTrack, in which you can see the top 100 most reputable companies in the world. He's a model that classify companies based on some business driver that are, for example, financial performance, governance, innovation, leadership, and so on. The third one is the Women Value Company Prize that stand out for the concrete and innovative strategies and policies that a company has in inclusion, participation, and promotion to enhance the contribution of women in the company. So participants in the competition are all companies, both public and private, that have distinguished themselves in the enhancement of women works and management of gender diversity. I would like to remember that gender equality is one goal of the 2030 Agenda of Sustainable Development signed by all members of United Nations in 2015. So it's a really important point to focus on if you want to increase your employer branding. The company that win this prize used some tools, for example, that are maybe family work conciliation services, initiative in favor of the management of leisure times, so benefit vouchers and others, flexible work organization policies, and non-discriminatory merit-based remuneration policies. So, as we have understood, the employer branding subjects are the current employees and the way that the company treat them, and also the prospective employees, and the way and the tools that a company use to attract talents and to let them be on board. To better understand on what employer branding focuses on, we can make a distinction from the product branding. So the product branding enables marketers to understand their customers, while employer branding provides a platform for HR manager to understand their employees. When we speak about the understanding of customer, we can think about the customer journey. That is the sum of experiences that a customers go through when interacting with a company, starting from the awareness, then coming to the purchase, and coming to the retention and advocacy that represents the loyalty loop. This is not our focus, but it's useful to show you that in the field of employer branding, there's a map also for the candidate called Candidate Journey. To ensure that your company is providing a compelling candidate experience, it is important to consider that the candidate journey. It consists, as you can see, of a sequence of steps that job applicants go through, starting from the recruiting marketing in the awareness and consideration stages, where the candidates become aware of the employer branding. I would like to suggest to go on YouTube and type Heineken Go Places, because is Heineken employer branding campaign that is a manifesto for potential new hires, by showing that its brands revolves around the personality and ambition of its employees. So Heineken wants to communicate that a proper role fits to every personality, and it's a really good example of the first stage awareness. Then we go through the consideration, in which the candidate research your company and competitors and decide then to do the application. So the candidate actually apply for the open position. It's important to think about the right application firm, because there's a study that affirms that 1 in 5 candidates won't complete an application that takes them 20 minutes or more to complete. Then there is the selection process. One example I would like you to tell you is from Casavo, that is a real estate company that used unconventional selection processes. For example, in the recruiting process, they wanted to recruit employees during a cooking course where candidates have tried their hand at complexity management and multitasking. And in addition, the interviews are blind, so the interviewers receive neither feedback nor CV in a preventive way in order to avoid possible bias in a selection. It was like a really good best practice, and this company won also the certification of Great Place to Work that I was telling you before in the previous slide. So after the selection, and if the candidate is the proper one, so it is the right one for the company, then there is the hiring, so the candidates become a new employees. 2 more stages referring to the career development and also the exit from the company for retirement or any other reason. If we speak about career, there is an example of MSD, a pharma company, in which the insertion of new recruits is accompanied by a buddy, or better, a tutor, who accompanies the recruit for a year, just trying to design a proper career path for every new employees. I would say that this is really good because they take into account which are the interests and the needs of every candidate, and they can also offer different paths to make them grow in the company. And then the last one is when the candidate ends his or her journey or changes company. To avoid the candidates wants to change company is really important to minimize the turnover intention by providing a good reputation and offer employees what they need. We can affirm that employer branding, embodied company image, company reputation, employees' experience and satisfaction, and last company cultures and workplace has two main goals that are the attraction of talents and the retention of talents. In the candidate journey map, we can notice that the first three steps, awareness, consideration, and application, focus on the attraction of talents, while the last three steps focus on the retention of talents. In this graph, you can see the correlation between retention and attraction of talents and what do employees care about. In this part of the graph, you can see all the characteristics that are high in percentage of retention and attractiveness. The attractive salary and benefit is one of the characteristics that is most important for employees, and this is in line with the economic value of the employer branding, that is the perception that the organization provide to employees, the remuneration, job security, and prospect. In fact, we can also see job security that gained high percentage. Then we have work-life balance, pleasant work atmosphere, and career progression that is in line with the development value that implies the degree to which an employer gives career enhances experiences to employees. In this part of the graph, we can see that the percentage of retention and attractiveness is low. The lowest are the use of latest technologies, that is not important at all. The gives back to society and the diversity and inclusion are themes that an employee doesn't take into account. And this is weird because, for example, social corporate responsibilities is one of the policies that can increase the reputation of the company. But it seems that for employees it's more important to have a job security, an attractive salary, and a career path that can make them grow. Also interesting is concerning the location, because if we observe the graph, having convenient location matters more for retaining workforce than it does for attracting new employees. And then the interesting job content, it seems more valuable as a retention driver than it is as an offering convincing new workforce to work for a new employer. In this slide, we can see that the employer branding conveys employees' satisfaction, employees' identification with the company, can create awareness among the various stakeholders, and also client satisfaction, and it conveys also the employee commitment and performance. These are all attributes that can increase the company profitability and employee productivity. The employer branding process requires the employer to promote a clear vision both internally and externally in the company. Therefore, employer branding should involve a more integrated internal mix of three groups in which top management, the business process group, and the cross-functional group can work together and try to focus also to the policies of employer branding. And referring the external, the communication and the HR management must work together strategically for effective employer branding, because this part is really important for the goal of attraction of talent. After having presented the theoretical background of the employer branding, here you can find some tools to define your employer brand strategy. First of all, is it useful to identify your talent? So this is a canvas you can use to try to answer to this question, identifying goals, the personality, the motivation, the channel, the skills, the content, and the biological characteristic that your employees has to have. To attract the right talent, it is important to have an understanding of your ideal candidate persona and to develop a strategic plan for talent attraction and intention. After having completed this canvas, then you can also define the employee's value proposition. In fact, hiring doesn't just mean occupying a position in your company, but it is what your candidates are looking for in their ideal job role. So, identifying your employees' value proposition, you can think about on the themes we have mentioned during this presentation, and think about the compensation. So that means the salary satisfaction, the timeliness, the fairness, the evaluation system, or the benefits. So defining the holidays, the insurance, the plan of retirement, which are the steps of education that you guarantee in your career path, which are the benefits that a family can have, and also the flexibility. I mentioned the smart working in this pandemic situation has really changed what was our work before. Or for example, the career. So which are the training, which are the steps of the career development, as I mentioned before. Characteristic of the workplace, like work-life balance, the challenges that an employee has, or for example the autonomy, the recognition, and last, the company culture, referring to the relationship with colleagues, the relationship with leaders and managers, the support that the company offers to the employees, the collaboration, and which is the team spirit. If there's social responsibility, and which are the level of trust. So these are all themes that are really useful to define your employee value proposition. But it's also useful to having in mind which are candidates' needs, because they can define your employer branding proposition. Meeting needs start at the bottom of the pyramid of Maslow. When you respond to the bottom, to the bottom layer, that is the physiological layer, the candidates moves to other levels such as security, membership, esteem, and self-fulfillment. So these are the steps and the needs that an employee could research in a workplace. If we speak about physiological needs, are biological requirements for human survival, like air, food, drink, or clothing. If we go then on safety needs, are the needs of security and safety that become more salient, and for example are the emotional security, the financial security, for example the employment or the social welfare, or for example the safety against accident and injury. Then if we move on, there are the belongingness and love needs, and so the need for interpersonal relationship in the workplace. So the human need of social contact. And this implies friendship, intimacy, trust, acceptance with colleague. Then we have the esteem needs. This is the fourth level, and it refers of the esteems that one has for oneself. So referring to, for example, the achievement, the independence, and also the desire for reputation and respect from others, so the status and the prestige that maybe an employee has in the company. The highest level in the Maslow hierarchy refers to the realization of a person's potential, that is the self-fulfillment, seeking personal growth and peak experiences. So, having in mind these needs could be useful to better define the themes that were mentioned in the slide, in the previous slide. Last but not least, is also important to define the channel to promote your employer branding. As we can see in this slide, for the part of the recruiting marketing, the channels you can use to convey your message of employer branding are social network, local events, email campaigns, talent network, job advertisement, educational program, and family and friends. In the phase of recruiting, you can reach your employees, your candidate, through the career site, the current employees by word of mouth, the application, and the interview. Then, once you have defined all these strategies, you can measure the results and fix what has not worked. So I hope that this presentation has been useful for you and interesting, and I would like to thank you. If you have any question or if you want me to send the material, you can write me on this contact. Thank you. Bye.